Hey, 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 hey,
What brought us in this room was a chance for the community to have a discussion about this central issue that's going from coast to coast to coast. Biggest hope was that we would have a conversation, the beginning of a conversation, that we could be good learners about what is going on. There's lots of misinformation, lots of misunderstandings about the whole issue of cannabis and its application, and to really get out the idea that we need to talk about this amongst ourselves.
Well, we wanted to provide opportunity and a forum for people to begin a discussion, to learn about some of the things we're learning about cannabis, in particular the legislation. All these aspects have to be understood and learned about before you can really have a good, genuine discussion. The aim of the conference is to elevate awareness of cannabis and what's going on in outside society and how that may or may not affect us. But more importantly, we want to know what is the value of the community around the subject.
We need to get the facts right, on what we can do and what we can't do.
I'm really grateful to our chief and council for opening up this opportunity for us to hear about it in more detail. We've read a lot in papers, we've seen a lot on TV, and by word of mouth we've heard a lot, and there's a lot of misconceptions out there about it, especially the effects and what have you. So I'm really glad that they had these people there that have the knowledge to share with us so that we can at least have a better understanding of it ourselves, because we're going to be dealing with this on a first-hand level.
When we look at plants, and part of what we try and do at the health center, and certainly something I encourage, is that we're always trying to look at things from our own perspective, from our indigenous perspective, and then we look at different Western models to help us. But really, we're looking at this from who we are as Anishinaabe people. And when Creator put us here, we all had instructions on how to live a life. We were to live a good life, and they gave us all these different things for us. Well, they did the same thing with the plants, they did the same thing with the fish, they did the same thing with the birds, etc. We all have original instructions on how we're supposed to live here. Tobacco has its original instruction, just like cannabis does, just like the fish do, just like the birds do. And they're all following their original instructions. We as humans are the ones who aren't. And we're the ones who are abusing it. We're the ones who are misusing it. We're the ones changing its original composition.
Fear for my children. That's what it really boils down to, is fear for my children. Knowing and learning that these, it's marketed and towards children. Like why would it be made in the form of candy, a gummy bear? Why would it be made in the form of cotton candy? Why would it be made in the form of chocolate? I think I'm going to have to take a more proactive approach to actively seek out information to present to my children.
I was afraid for the children that they might find the wrong stuff. I mean, my son just had his birthday and he turned 19, and on his birthday, one of his best friends OD'd and took fentanyl by accident. He didn't know what he was getting, and he bought it off a street dealer and he died. I mean, dispensaries, I could see the benefits of it because they have regulated and supervised, but informed like stuff that comes out of there. So we're not getting all these carcinogens or toxics or like fentanyl or stuff that'll kill you. So I'm in a way, that's the way I see it in being good. I mean, but as the opposition of it, then drugs is always going to be there, but I'd rather them find, not say good drugs, but I mean like drugs that aren't laced.
Well, the reason I wanted to come yesterday was to hear the doctor speak. I wanted to hear his side of what is going down, especially where it pertains to your health. because I believe the effects of any kind of drugs play a large role in some of the things that are happening with our young people.
Cannabis has a long history as a medicine, interrupted by about 90 years of disinformation. Now, we're starting to get better evidence for where it can be used, but given its low risk and relative potential benefit for many conditions, it's worth a trial, certainly for medical cannabis. It's not for everybody, doesn't work for everybody, but it is legal medically today, and it will be legal recreationally as well next week. Don't smoke it, vaporize, or eat it. Smoking, all the products of combustion, all that crap, and the bad smell, so it's better to just get a vaporizer. Always start low and go slow. The first time you use, you're more likely to get the side effects, and the higher the dose you use, the more likely to get side effects. And don't forget CBD. Even using recreationally, I think people should have some CBD in their cannabis to mitigate some of the potential adverse effects.
So a lot of the information that we got, and also from the police, was very helpful. And that because this is something that's coming down the tubes fairly fast, it's good to be able to have a list of people that we can contact to be able to explain more about, what's going on and what could be offered to these young people.
We still want to hear feedback. This is not necessarily like a one-shot deal. If you guys want me to come back again in the future, we'll come back and have this conversation on an ongoing basis. We recognize that this is the very starting point for cannabis legalization. It's not like it's going to go out the door and that's it, the conversation ends.
I have a family, I have grandchildren, and I am concerned about the future of those grandchildren because I want them to be safe. I want them to make an informed decision if they choose to use drugs or anything of this sort. I want them to be able to understand, okay, this is what's going to happen if you delve into this too much.
Spiritually, it's very important that we have been told, and that we have to be very mindful of the spiritual link that connects us all. So it's not just a physical space or an emotional space, it's also a spiritual space. And we'll put a lot of weight on that, and we'll continue to go to ceremonies as early as probably this coming weekend, we'll probably be asking further details.
Part of the rest of the debate is, hey, could we capitalize on this through economic development of some sort? For instance, we need jobs. Why can't we get in on this big economic boom?
Should have been more young people involved. There wasn't enough, but the importance of it is for the elders. I'm here, I went through my journey.
Currently, there are a lot of cannabis users anyways in our community. So it's just like one step that we have to deal with. And I'm just hoping that our community looks at this whole legalization and the issues that it brings with love and kindness upon each other. It's important to hear the different voices because we all come from different yet similar backgrounds. So some of us are parents, some of us are elders, some of us are grandparents, the youth. We need to hear from them. Everyone has a different opinion. Everyone's thoughts may be different, although that we're grounded in our cultural values. So we have to respect the difference in people's personal decisions and personal opinions.
I have a 9.5, 10-year-old who's coming into his teen years, and I don't want him to think that, well, if mom's not going to buy it for me, I'll just go ask uncle or I'll go ask auntie or somebody, right? No, it doesn't work that way. We still, as a community, have an obligation to our children to make sure that we help them succeed in life. I don't have a problem if it's medicinal, because there are individuals there that suffer with chronic pain. But in that same case, we have traditional medicines here in our territories that can do the same process and same use. We're not here to kibosh anybody's thought processes in it. We are looking out for our future generations.
What we were trying to achieve in the breakout sessions was to pull out the value. What is the value people are carrying What are the values our elders want us to pay attention to?
And they also spoke about governance and jurisdiction. They said, do we want this on our community? You know, what are the implications? And what I really like about the elders is that's about sober second thought. That's about, hey, hold on. Just because government says it's okay doesn't mean that we necessarily think it's okay in our community. So I think there's some strong reinforcement from their group for the idea of a more fulsome education and awareness piece, and also for the task force idea. So people to flesh out a few of these details a little bit more.
Our first and most important priority is the health and safety of our children and our youth. This is the government that's legalized it, and it's a huge money-making industry. If we don't, as parents or grandparents or as a community, don't protect our own children and youth and our own future, then these are big things that we're up against. So we've got to be prepared to really stand up and make sure our voice is heard in terms of fighting for our future, our healthy future.
We categorize them down and break it into the focal point of education, knowledge, and awareness. That being the first thing. The second part of it was the safety of our children. But that comes from the instruction and learning and knowledge, and it helps to benefit the children. At the same time, there's going to be legislation and regulation, and if it does end up within the community, then we want to make sort of a template following guidelines, but customize it to our own community's needs and benefits, how they want to see it run.
Breakout sessions started to distill clearly what it was, the next steps we have to do. And the breakout sessions were very valuable and instrumental in that way in giving the leadership the direction they need to respond to the community.
I'm really proud that our council and our chief have taken this step and placed a moratorium on it right now to give us a chance to prepare.
I really feel that community dialogue is very important. Next steps in our community for not just in the coming weeks, but in the months and years to come, that we need to have some policy and procedures in place.
There's going to be so many different facets, including our culture, our traditional medicines, our ancestral teachings, and everything's going to reflect all of that through the generations to come.
So for me, it was kind of a hope-filled conference, in where I was able to actually hear people talk about it in more specific terms.
I hope that the next step will be is that we have another community consultation where we can gain or gather as many of our community members and have this open discussion.
But my thoughts were, what next? You know, what's going to happen next? This community's got to come together and say, we built that. Not they, we. So when we help one another, is because we love one another. If we don't love, we don't help.
I really love Whitefish River. I really see it as a little hamlet. I think that we have to take careful, measured, educated steps. We are our own community. We can decide what goes on there ourselves.
So basically, we need to all share a common understanding of what this means, what it could do, what value it has. It's a process we have to learn together. The task force that the community is saying would be necessary to guide this. I'm very comfortable with that because the task force would be community members. Even though there are people here that couldn't attend, they have a viewpoint. We need to hear their viewpoint. We need to show respect to their viewpoint. It's all got to come into some kind of balance.
So I may have an individual position on this that may not be held by the collective. So my job as the chief and our council is to listen very carefully to the collective value. And that's what we're trying to seek, is the collective value. And that's paramount to where we're going forward. We have much to learn about this, so We're sort of at the tip of an iceberg. It's an opportunity to awaken our voices, the opportunity to be respectful, the opportunity to have diversity, the opportunity to listen together, the opportunity to learn and to craft solutions together, one that includes our spiritualism, that includes our Ojibwe identity. And I think we have started such a wonderful journey together.